Good evening, everyone. I see we have a very nice steady trickle of people starting to sign on for the webinar this evening. So welcome to you all, and welcome to this next installment of the Rock Jumper Dream Destination series. My name is Daniel Dankwitz. I'm the Tailor-Made Tours Manager at Rock Jumper, and I'm thrilled to be welcoming you all this evening from a very, very chilly corner of South Africa, unseasonably chilly. I hope that you're all looking forward to this little bit of escapism as we take a deep dive into the avian riches of Panama with Rob Williams. Just as I kick off this evening, please be aware that Rob will be available to answer any questions that you might have at the end of the presentation. So please post your questions and comments in the chat box and in the Q&A section, and we'll be glad to answer them come the end of the trip, at least come the end of the webinar. Moreover, if you'd like to look back on some of the past webinars, please visit our RockJumper website, and all of the previous webinars have been posted there. We do have an upcoming webinar scheduled for the 11th of September, and our tour leader, Paul Varney, will be taking us through northern India. So if you haven't diarized that yet, I would suggest you do so. It's an incredibly exciting part of the world, some fantastic birds, culture, scenery, and of course, chance to see the incredible Taj Mahal and tigers. With that being said, it is an absolute pleasure of mine to introduce Dr. Rob Williams to you this evening. Rob is an experienced tropical ecologist and birder specializing in the New World tropics. Rob has lived in South America for upwards of 15 years, split between Ecuador and Peru, though he is now based in the UK and he travels extensively from there. In his own words, Rob has said that he's quite literally obsessed with birds and has been so since he was a child. But he has a general fascination with all aspects of the natural world, and his skills are certainly something to behold. Beyond his guiding career, Rob has worked for several top conservation organizations, including the RSPB International, BirdLife International, and the Wildlife Conservation Society, and he has authored 4 separate books on birds. He is currently involved in a number of research projects on several threatened South American species, including the Andean condor, the white-winged guan, Andean bear, maned wolf, giant otter, and he sits as the scientific director of the award-winning Chapari Reserve, the first community-owned private conservation area in Peru. Tonight, Rob is going to be speaking to us about the riches of Panama, a country that forms the gateway between South and Central America, playing host to a unique diversity of neotropical birds, totaling around 1,000 species. Some of the obvious birds that come to mind are the incredible harpy eagle, the near-mythical rufous-vented ground cuckoo, monotypic rosy thrush tanager, and a plethora of interesting ant thrushes, ant shrikes, ant pitters, and of course the delightful hummingbirds. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Rob, and I look forward to sharing in this virtual adventure with you all this evening. Over to you, Rob.
Well, thank you very much, Dan. Good evening, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here again talking to you. I hope you're all well. It's a lovely, warm evening here in the United Kingdom today. So, but let's go off. Let's travel to somewhere even warmer. Let's travel to Panama. So I'm going to take you on a little bit of a trip around Panama, exploring sort of the offer of the tours we give, and I'll give a bit of an overview of the country and its biogeography and fabulous bird life. So there we go. So this is Panama. Panama joins North and South America. Strangely, as a kid, I always thought Panama went from north to south, but it really doesn't. It goes from west to east. And at the west end, you've got a border with Costa Rica, and at the east end, you've got a border with Colombia. And the land bridge between North and South America was only closed, it nearly closed about 10 million years ago, which allowed some species to cross, some faunal exchange, but it wasn't completely closed. And it really closed about 2 to 3 million years ago properly. And that's allowed much more faunal exchange since then. But so Panama is a really interesting area in that it's got influences of the South American avifauna and influences of the North American avifauna. And because of its geography, with a sort of chain of mountains that kind of break as you go along, so in the middle bit, there aren't as many mountains and there's gaps. You get different distributions across. and of how far each of those avifaunas and individual species go. So that makes it a very interesting area. As you can see, we've got the Caribbean to the north and the Pacific Ocean to the south. Panama City also sits on the Pacific coast and is where all tours start. So the national flag of Panama, Panama is a very interesting country in that it was obviously inhabited by indigenous peoples from several thousand years before Columbus found the Americas, and it was rapidly conquered by the Spanish. It became part of Gran Colombia. And then in the early part of the 20th century, it split away from Gran Colombia because there was a desire to build the canal. And the US government sort of fostered this separation from Gran Colombia. Well, what was then Colombia? Sorry, Gran Colombia had finished. It was part of sort of Colombia, and it became a US administered area that, although it was officially a separate country, it really didn't become totally separate till the late 70s. And it was under several military governments before that. Now Panama has total control over the canal again since 1999, and it's a very calm, democratic country. There's about 4 million citizens, half of whom live in Panama City. It's a very organized place. The canal recently got expanded and provides most of the country's income. One of the interesting things about it is because the main limitation on the canal is fresh water. There's an immense amount of forest protected in central Panama because they want the whole watersheds that feed into the canal to be rainforests to generate enough fresh water, because that's the limitation for the ships going through. So they have a very good outlook on forest protection, even right outside the capital city. So we'll take a, so here is a picture of the canal zone. You can see forested hills around. But moving swiftly on to the birds. So there's about 1,000 species. It depends who you ask, which taxonomy, which include 8 country endemics, and then about 105 restricted range species. Those are species that are limited to less than 50,000 square kilometer range. And those are obviously, because they're not country endemics, the majority of them are shared with neighboring countries. Here are some of the areas. So you've got the Central American Caribbean slope that comes down from Central America through Costa Rica, the Costa Rica and Panama Highlands, the Central American Pacific slope. So obviously you've got both, because you've got this ridge of mountains, both slopes of that. Then you've got the Darien lowlands and highlands, and then Escudo de Veraguas Island, which is in the Caribbean, off the Caribbean coast, which only has one endemic species. So you can see there's quite a few endemics. So the top 3 areas are basically the westernmost ones, though some of them some species creep quite far into sort of central Panama. And the Darien is to the east on the border with Colombia. So here's one of the endemic birds. This is striped-cheeked woodpecker. This was an adult feeding a youngster, I think, or maybe it was a pair actually looking at them. I always thought it was an adult, but I was taking the photo. So, so there are 8 Panama endemics. The Escudo hummingbird is not always considered a full species. That's why it has an asterisk, but I think it's a reasonably good species. And so some of these are particularly hard to see. A couple are on offshore islands, and birds like glow-throated hummingbird is nearly mythical now. You have to do some fairly serious clambering to get to the areas. Similarly for Azuero parakeet and beautiful tree runner. But in general, it's an absolutely fabulous country for birds. With this union between the 2 continents and nearly 1,000 species, that means there's going to be big diversity in some of the fantastic tropical bird families of the Americas. And so here are a few numbers just to sort of whet the appetite and show you what kind of diversity there is down there. You know, 60 hummingbirds, 91 flycatchers, 61 tanagers, 35 antpitters and antbirds. So it's really good diversity, but it's also not totally overwhelming. So Panama makes a very good destination for people moving down, sort of, you maybe birded a bit in Mexico or something and want to take the next step. And Panama is a very good option for that because it's got a sufficiently high diversity, but it hasn't got 200 hummingbird flycatchers. But yeah, it's very, very impressive diversity, and you get to see very good numbers in a relatively short period of time. Currently, Rock Jumper offers 4 different tours. The top 3 here are designed so the best of birding, it sits within a sort of sandwich made by the Darien extension and the Chiriquí extension. So you can take to get those top 3 as one unit, which covers the sort of central area as the main tour, the best of birding, and then the 2 extremes, the east and western extreme. The Panama Highlights tour is just like the central area again, but in a more relaxed way, taking a bit more time there. And but it all fits together very well. And obviously, especially with Dan on tonight introducing, there's endless possibilities for tailor-made options for Panama as well. So, did I jump? So yeah, so here's the map again. And so I'm going to show you these areas. So you've got the central areas you can see near Panama City. We've got the Canal Zone, Cerro Azul and Cerro Jefe. And this is just to the east of the canal, and Nusa Gandhi, another area of sort of hill forests. And then the Valle de Anton and Juan Hombron at the coast. So that all fits together. That's the best of birding and the relaxed tour, all those sites. Over to the west, you've got the Volcan area, Boquete and David. This is an area with much higher mountains. And that extension, that's the Chiriquí extension, birds from the lowlands right up into over 3,000 meters on Volcan Baru. And so you get an incredible elevational range there. And then over to the east near the Colombian border, you've got the Darien, which the extension we do there focuses currently on the Darien lowlands. The Darien highlands options are a bit more and would have to be a tailor-made tour because it's quite adventurous. There aren't lodges, etc. So one of the special birds that many people look for are the monotypic families. Obviously, lots of family birders out there. And here's one that is a bit of an enigma, the Sapayoa. It was placed within the New World flycatchers for a while. It was placed within the manakins for a while. Recent genetic studies have shown that it's actually the only member within the New World of the Old World subocene passerines. So basically, it's related to the Asian broadbills and the Acetes from Madagascar. It sort of sits in between them. Some people have said it should be lumped into one of them. I suspect we'll hear more about this in the future. Currently, it's a monotypic family. A lovely Latin name, Sapayoa enigma, because for so long it has confused so many people. Another popular one is the rosy thrush tanager, which is a monotypic family. Beautiful, beautiful song coming from very dense undergrowth and sort of vine, dense tangles and things. So a bit of a tricky bird to see, but absolutely amazing song. And with patience, you can usually get to peer in between branches, as you can see with this photo, and see one. And then another very popular one found in the western highlands near the Costa Rican border is the wren thrush, or Zeldonia, a very diminutive skulking bird of the understory of cloud forest and paramo edges and things. Lovely bird. So those are the three monotypic families that a lot of people want to go, and the tours are all designed to try and give you the best opportunities of seeing these birds. So I was saying that the forest starts right around Panama City. Here is a city of 2 million people roughly, and this is the view towards it from one of the birding locations, just forested foothills going straight to it because they're protecting this. And that protection of habitat means you can find incredible birds very close to the city. So this is the Canopy Tower area. There's this famous old radar station that's a viewpoint lodge and looks out over the canopy. There also a couple of other canopy opportunities provide some very good birding with opportunities to see things like the wonderful blue cotinga, which you can see at eye level if you use these towers, or green shrike vireo. Easy to hear from low level, but very hard to see from low level. But up here you can get eye level on them. And canopy emergent birds like the fabulous yellow-throated toucan. What I'm going to do first of all is talk about the central bit a bit, just take us through sort of by layers of the forest in this central area, the kind of birds you'll see. There are also several species of puff bird. Here we've got the black-breasted puff bird, with slightly strange name because several of them have got black breasts. This one, black-breasted nice, always has a completely black cap, but it's not called black cap. So then in the mid levels, you get the motmots. Here, a nice picture of the rufous motmot. And the smallest of all the motmots, the toady motmot, can also be found. A bit of a disjunct distribution within Panama, a bit patchy, but there's several spots you can go to see this bird. Also, fruiting trees and things attract barbets. Here, a lovely spot-crowned barbet. And then within the canopy, you get birds like the yellow-eared toucanet, one of these sort of lower, mid-level, more secretive toucanets. Several of these around the world, and this is the yellow-eared that spreads up from Colombia up through Central America. Good numbers of raptors, birds like barred hawk, quite easy to see here. Here's a crane hawk, another one. And there's some that are a bit more special, like semi-plumbeous hawk, a bit of a speciality of this zone, not as easily seen as the former two in other areas. Another nice toucan is the collared aracari. And these mid-levels also host night birds. So with a bit of luck and some day roosting ones or going out at night, you've got a good chance of seeing birds like spectacled owl. And then some of the more widespread birds, but always nice to see great potu, one of my absolute favorite birds, and the common potu. Dropping down into the sort of lower mid-story, you get birds like grey-cheeked nunlet. And then if you've got a forest stream nearby, you may get green and rufous kingfisher. You can get all 5 of the sort of tropical New World kingfishers down there. So this is usually the most secretive and sought after one. And the absolutely adorable bat falcon, always popular. Panama's quite a good place to see great green macaw. This is quite a rare macaw now in many areas. Patchy distribution and has declined, very tricky to see now in Ecuador and even in Colombia, but doing quite well in Panama, especially on the Darien area. One of the main things, there's a very good road alongside the Panama Canal, where there used to be an old pipeline called the Pipeline Road, and it allows incredible access to the understory of very good forest. Right alongside an easily trafficked road and on the small roads going off the sides and things. And you can get incredible amounts of antbirds along there and get some really good views. Here's the absolutely fabulous ocellated antbird, probably the best one in my opinion. But also good ones like bicolored antbird, the chunky fasciated antshrike, again, usually heard more often than seen, but can be tracked down and seen well. The black antshrike. And then in slightly more dry areas, you get white-bellied antbird. There's a male singing, and here's a female. The small and absolutely beautifully marked spotted antbird. And then in amongst the ant wrens, there's several species of ant wren, but here's a checker-throated to keep us going. These areas also have other good birds like ant pitters, and street-chested ant pitter is one that you can usually pick up along in this area. And this is one of the best areas in the world to see the fabulous rufous-vented ground cuckoo. This is a really tricky bird to see in many areas, but the Pipeline Road area is proving to be a regular spot now, and probably offers the best chance of seeing this anywhere. This is the northern subspecies. There are 6 subspecies, and possibly some of them are going to be split up. I'm sure that it's not just one species with 6 subspecies, but yeah, this is the northern subspecies Salvini along here. It's also a good area to see the pheasant cuckoo, which for some reason in Panama allows much better views than in many other areas. In places like the rainforests of Peru, it's really hard to get good views of this bird. But in Panama, several times I've had absolutely phenomenal views of this bird, and they seem to be more tolerant for some reason of people watching them. So that's a very good one to get. Can even be seen in city parks of right around Panama City. There's a good selection of other mid-story passerines, including the tropical royal flycatcher. The royal flycatcher now been split into 2 species. The one in southeast Brazil has been split off as Atlantic royal flycatcher. The other grouping of subspecies is called tropical royal flycatcher, and this is the northern subspecies group within that. Again, possibly might be split in the future even further, but it's quite a good area for seeing these. One of my favorites in the sort of slightly hillier areas, the rufous-capped warbler. Absolutely delightful little bird. And some very nice manakins, which can be found at Lex doing crazy dances and things. So you've got the lance-tailed manakin and the rather wonderful golden collared manakin. There's lots of tanager species and things which form nice flocks and can be seen coming to some of the feeders, the fruit feeders and things. Here's shining honey creeper, tanager ally. And the absolutely beautiful emerald tanager. I'm personally obsessed with hummingbirds, and it's a very good area for hummingbirds. We talk about 60 odd species in Panama, including fabulous ones like rufous-crested coquette, long-billed staff throat, violet-headed hummingbird, one of my favorites, understated and subtle, but just very active, busy little hummingbird in understory flowers. Sapphire-throated. Oh, a very nice one, the snowy-bellied. And here's a magenta-throated woodstar. So that's the sort of the central bit of Panama, just a bit of a flavor there. Now I'm going to take you to the west near the Costa Rican border to look at the Highland area there. So we do a lot of birding around a volcano called Volcan Baru and the Los Quetzales area. So this is montane forest, much more humid than the lowland forests of the central. Lots of mist and fog, tree ferns, lichens, mosses, etc. And here we find birds that come down through Central America, like Ocracius wren, a rather wonderful scintillant hummingbird. And being called Los Quetzales, obviously, it has got resplendent quetzal, which is always a very popular bird to find, and we make a special effort to try and see that, as well as the rather fabulous spaghetti head or 3-wattled bellbird. Amazing sound ringing out across the valley, and was a bit tricky to find one in a good viewpoint, but yeah, you usually get one. A rather fancy long-tailed silky flycatcher. Got some scarcer birds like purple-backed quail dove here. Actually, I think I've miswritten it. Should be purplish-backed quail dove, I think. Large-footed finch, one of the Central American large finches, and a lovely black-cheeked warbler. Some quite scarce flycatchers here, tufted flycatcher. And my personal favorite is the black-capped flycatcher. It looks like it should be a much bigger bird because of its plumage somehow. I don't know. It looks, it's a mini Beckard style. And if you're lucky enough to get up to Volcan Baru, which we should now be able to do again, unfortunately, the last tour I was on was just as COVID hit. And we were there and they closed all the national parks because COVID, I mean, would have been the safest place to be. There's never anyone else up there. So we had to go birding round outside until the tour ended and weren't allowed in, unfortunately. But yeah, so normally we get to go up there, and some good birds like the snow-capped hummingbird, volcano hummingbird, another Celisphorus, the lovely volcano junco, incredibly tame when you get up to those top areas and confiding. And then if we get up there in the dark, you can look for a couple of good owls, unspotted saw-whet owl, absolutely fabulous sort of Central American high cloud forest bird, and Costa Rican pygmy owl that can also be found in the daytime. So that gives an idea of flavor of that western area near the Costa Rican. So that's the Chiriquí area. And then we'll now jump right across the country and go to the Darien. And one of the main attractions of the Darien lowlands is the density of large eagles. And local people in the forests often communally sort of run and managed. And the lodges and local guides down there work with the local people. So there's often nests of these large eagles that you can go and see. So here you can see this is the hide for the harpy eagle chick. And here it's the harpy eagle chick on the nest. This is the kind of views you get by walking into, to get there, that time we took a boat and then walked for, I don't know, about half an hour, 35 minutes from where the boat dropped us, and spend a couple of hours watching this amazing nest. When you get the scope on the nest, it's full of vertebrae and skulls and things like that of the prey. And there's this rather fantastic bird sitting on it. We had an amazing day that day because we then went on to a crested eagle nest and saw a crested eagle. The adult came in to the chick while we were there. So a double big eagle day is possible in the Darien lowlands. Other good birds down in this area, very localized and scarce dusky-backed jacamar. And then birds like the fabulous Cytosoma, the black-crowned antpitter. I think one of my all-time favorite antpitters. Another very good one is wing-banded antbird. Absolutely fabulous. And then if you can get up into the Highlands, I'll just include a little bit about the Highlands, though this would have to be a tailor-made thing. You get birds like varied solitaire up there, green-necked tanager, and then these are on Cerro Pire, Pire hummingbird. This is a female. Never managed to get a picture of a male. I only saw one in flight. And there's a whole bunch of endemic subspecies in this area as well. This is the Galindoi subspecies of greenish puffleg that's confined to the same mountains where you've got the endemic species of several other things. So Panama offers incredible options also for some mammals. It's very good for seeing brown-throated three-toed sloth, and very good. Again, because they've got a long history of conserving the forest and things, you see primates and stuff like that as well. Some very nice amphibians and reptiles like green and black poison dart frog. And so, yeah, that's my quick tour around. I'd like to thank the other rock jumper guides who provided photos for this. And I hope to see you all in the field in Panama sometime soon. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rob. Panama just looks like an absolute dream. I have to admit that I've got very little experience traveling around Central and Southern America, and a lot of these birds are completely new to me, and it's a kaleidoscope of color and shapes and sizes that I've never been exposed to. So absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your incredible experience with us. We do have a number of questions coming in. First of all, Ian. Hi, Ian. Great to have you. attending this evening. Ian wants to know which tour would offer the best chances at the rufous vented ground cuckoo. I know it's a really, really tough bird overall, but is there one particular area or one particular tour that you think offers slightly increased chances at that bird?
I would think the best of birding, because that gives you time on the Panama in that area, and that's a bit more of the relaxed. I think the relaxed, probably you go to the same areas and you probably have a bit more time, but it's at a bit more of a relaxed pace. I would say go for the best of birding, and
I certainly agree. I think for a bird as difficult as that, time in the field is essentially
absolutely.
what's needed. But as you say, there have been increased numbers of sightings recently, so it certainly seems to be a good time to go out there to try for that bird.
Yeah.
George then wants to know, how would you recommend getting out to Isla Coiba, and what about Cerro Hoya? What do you think would be best there?
Okay. Well, Cerro Hoya. So the Boquete area, you get to the edge of Cerro Hoya, the sort of back side of it on the Chiriquí trip. Cerro Hoya itself, I've been to a couple of times. Is there any bird you're particularly after? Do we know? Is it glow-throated hummingbird? In which case I wouldn't look for it there. I'd look for it on the Azuero Peninsula. Remember that the big bit that drops down on the mountains at the end of that is where you would look for that bird. So, but the Cerro Hoya birds we get on the Chiriquí, so the one near the Costa Rican border.
Perfect. Thanks, Rob. And then next, Paul wants to know, what was the bright green bird around slide 18? I think that was the tanager. I can't remember off the top of my head, but maybe you can look back and
I'd have to go back through them, I guess. Or if I stop share, hang on, I'll get the screen. I can pull up the screen a second. Slide 18. That was the green shrike vireo.
Perfect. Thanks for that. George has come back to us and says he meant the Cerro Hoya on Azuero Peninsula. So I think that sounds about right as per.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Yes. So yes, you have to go down onto the Azuero Peninsula, and it's a bit of a hike. I haven't actually been myself. I was meant to be going immediately after the last Panama tour I guided, which was the one which we just managed to finish before COVID. But I had to get out of the country or I would have been stuck there for months. So I had to cancel my plan of going exploring Cerro Hoya. So it's still on my list. But yeah, you can get down. There are places to stay. And then to get up to the altitude you want for things like the Azuero parakeet and the glow-throated hummingbird, you need to hike up and either camp or do a very early hike and probably go up a couple of times. I was planning on taking a tent and just sleeping out for a couple of days.
Sure. Thanks, Rob. Catherine Carroll is then asking, does Rock Jumper offer a Panama trip that includes Pipeline Road and the Darien? Carol, I can answer that for you. Many of our itineraries do include the Pipeline Road. It's very accessible from Panama City. And the Darien is usually treated as a short extension to the main tour. So we take a short flight into the Darien for a couple of days before returning then to Panama City. So many of our itineraries do cover both sites, and I certainly would recommend visiting both sites for the best coverage of Panama.
I don't think they're flying anymore.
Okay.
Interrupt, Dan. I think because the camp that people used to go into the Darien it was near a gold mine. That's where the flight used to go in, and that, as far as I'm aware, isn't going. And so you drive from the Panama City area down towards it's a very good road, down to the Darien lowlands, and you drive down, staying a night en route. And that's what certainly what we did in 2020, just before COVID hit.
So that leads me straight into the next question. Paul Welling is asking, which is the best tour for harpy eagles? And please remind me how many days the tour is. Paul, I guess the best option for you there would be the Darien extension, which is a 6-day tour beginning and ending in Panama City. We offer this tour combined with the Panama Best of Birding, which covers the central regions of the country, which is an additional 9 days. And then on the forward end of that tour, we normally run the Chiriquy extension, which is an additional 6 days. But if Harpy Eagle is your primary target, then I would look no further than the Darien, and that's about a 6-day tour, including arrivals and departures there. Perfect. Well, I think that's everything. Rob, there are a number of comments coming in just thanking you for the incredibly detailed talk and for sharing your incredible knowledge and experience with us. So thank you very much on behalf of the entire team for showcasing Panama so brilliantly. And thank you to all of our attendees for spending their evening with us or their morning, depending on where in the world you are joining from. I think with that, we will close the meeting this evening. But if anyone missed a short portion of the webinar in the beginning, the webinar will be made available within the coming days on our YouTube page as well as on our website, and you can catch the balance of the webinar there. So, Rob, thanks again, and thank you to all of our attendees for joining us this evening. Have a wonderful day further.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.